My name's Alex Grant. I'm 34, recently retired, and I live in a gated suburban neighborhood where peace is supposed to reign. The kind of place with trimmed hedges, street lamps shaped like little Victorian gaslights, and neighbors who argue over holiday decorations. Sounds cute, right? It was until Karen. Yes, that Karen. The president of our HOA, the self-declared queen of covenants, conditions, and control. She has a platinum bob, oversized sunglasses, and the kind of purse that doubles as a weapon in most action movies. If it happens within a quarter-mile radius of the cul-de-sac, Karen knows. And if it doesn't match her vision of suburban utopia, she shuts it down. Now, let me be clear. I didn't want trouble. I moved here for quiet after a 10-year government career. Let's just say I did consulting for certain three-letter agencies. I won't say which, but I've had clearance levels that could make your hair stand on end. I left that world behind for coffee on the porch and working on my vintage Camaro in peace. But peace didn't last long. It started when I decided to plant 2 rare Japanese maples in my backyard. I got them imported legally, and they were my pride and joy. I had them nestled near the fence line, on my side of the property. I checked the HOA rules thoroughly, no violations. One morning, I come outside and find them both gone. Just stumps. At first I thought I was losing my mind. Then I saw Karen standing smugly by the sidewalk, sipping a kale smoothie, as her landscaper loaded my destroyed trees into the back of a pickup truck. "What the hell?" I asked. "Oh, good morning, Alex," she said, like I was interrupting her yoga class. "I noticed those trees were too close to the fence. They might have interfered with the sprinkler system. I took care of it." "You took care of it?" I nearly choked. "Karen, those trees were 10 feet from the line. On my property." She didn't blink. "Well, the roots could have caused damage. And since your yard backs up to common HOA land, I technically had jurisdiction." I was so stunned I laughed, which only made her smirk more. "You'll be getting the invoice for the removal," she added, flipping her sunglasses up onto her head. "Oh, and a violation notice for unauthorized landscaping." "A violation? For my own backyard?" I went inside, fuming, and called the HOA complaint line. Straight to voicemail. Emailed. Nothing. I even printed the deed and surveyor map proving the trees were 100% on my property. Karen sent me a generic response. "The HOA stands by its enforcement actions. Payment for damages due within 14 days. She wanted me to pay her for her mistake. I could have called a lawyer, and nearly did, but I decided on something better. I called an old friend, Ben. One of the few guys still in the bureau. Ben owed me a few favors, and he's got a sense of humor as dark as mine. Let's just say, I told him, a certain local tyrant destroyed federal property. "Federal?" he asked. "Oh yeah," I said. "One of those trees was part of a classified horticulture study. Rare, tracked, monitored. Karen just messed with a project tied to national biosecurity." Ben whistled. "You want me to drop the hammer?" "Not yet," I grinned. "Let's rattle her cage first." The next morning, a black SUV with government plates slowly rolled down our street. Karen peeked through her blinds. Parked right in front of my house, very visible. A man in a dark suit and sunglasses stepped out, briefcase in hand, and knocked on my door. We shook hands like old friends because we were. Then he pulled out a clipboard and made a show of taking photos of the stump area, the sidewalk, even Karen's yard. Karen came marching over like a Karen-shaped storm cloud. "Excuse me, what's going on here?" she demanded. Ben turned slowly. "I'm Agent Harper. We're investigating a potential violation of the Federal Environmental Safety Act." Karen blinked. "The what now?" He pulled out a card and handed it to her. "You may be contacted for questioning. Please do not interfere with federal operations." Her jaw dropped so fast I thought it'd break the pavement. As she walked off, I could almost hear the gears grinding in her head. And that was just the beginning. Because Karen still had no idea who I really was, and that she'd just cut down the wrong man's trees. Karen didn't show her face for 2 full days after the SUV incident. For a woman who usually patrolled the sidewalks like a hawk in Lululemon, it was a noticeable absence. But I knew better than to assume she'd learned her lesson. Sure enough, on the third day, I found a bright pink envelope taped to my door. It was an emergency HOA fine notice. She now claimed that my refusal to cooperate with community maintenance was grounds for a $3,000 fine. Apparently, she'd even scheduled a hearing with her hand-picked HOA board, a panel of Karen clones with clipboards and fake authority. That's when I decided it was time for phase 2. I called Ben again. "It's go time." He laughed. "You sure?" Once I hit the button, this turns into a spectacle. Do it. The next morning, just as the hearing was about to begin in the community clubhouse, 3 more black SUVs pulled into the neighborhood. Out stepped 2 agents in windbreakers, 1 man from the Federal Property Crimes Division, and a woman from Internal Investigations. Ben showed up last, sipping a coffee like it was a picnic. Karen was in mid-lecture to the board when the agents entered the clubhouse. "Excuse me," Agent Harper announced, flashing his badge. "This is now a federal investigation site. Everyone not named Karen Jennings, please exit the building." Her mouth dropped open. "This is outrageous. You can't just—" "Oh, but we can," said the woman next to him. "You're currently suspected of destroying government-tagged horticultural specimens, and you issued fines under fraudulent pretenses while interfering with federal monitoring systems." "I didn't know," Karen sputtered. "Those trees weren't." Ben held up a folder. The Japanese maple on Mr. Grant's property was part of an environmental tracking program for endangered flora. Monitored, tagged, tracked. You destroyed federal property. I stepped into the room then, arms crossed. "Hi, Karen," I said casually. "Didn't I mention I used to work for the agency that designed that program?" She looked like she'd swallowed a brick. "You see," I continued, "not only did you violate HOA boundaries, but you also trespassed, destroyed property, issued false fines, and impersonated an enforcement official. And you billed me for it." Karen tried to backpedal. "This has all been a misunderstanding. Maybe I overstepped a little, but surely we can resolve this civilly." "Oh, we are," said the Internal Investigations officer. "In federal court." They handed her a subpoena right then and there. But the real kicker came next, because I'd done a little digging of my own. Turns out Karen had been cooking the HOA books, overcharging residents for landscaping fees that went straight into a private account under her sister's name. Classic HOA corruption. When we presented those records to the neighborhood, the vote to dissolve the board passed unanimously. Karen was removed from her post, charged with embezzlement, trespassing, destruction of federal property, and false reporting. The day she was arrested, the whole street watched from their porches. One of the kids even played the Cops theme from a Bluetooth speaker. It was glorious. The new board chair? A quiet older guy named Mr. Lin who just wants to maintain the flower beds and host potlucks. Perfect. And me? I got full reimbursement for the trees plus a $50,000 settlement from the HOA's insurance provider. The best part? I used the money to install a koi pond, right where Karen's landscapers tore up my garden. I even planted a new Japanese maple twice as big. There's a small wooden sign beside it now, dedicated to Karen. "May your roots never cross mine again." Sometimes neighbors stop and ask what happened to the old board president. I just smile and say, "She learned that some trees are better left standing, and some people are better left alone. Because when you've spent a decade working with people who make dictators blink, a little suburban tyrant in yoga pants doesn't stand a chance."